Hello once again everybody, I'm Jake Luce and welcome to my video coaching newsletter. The title of today's video coaching newsletter is Waiting and Debating in College Recruiting. Great title, another great subject to talk about. I actually have an email that was submitted by a prospect, a young prospect who has been to many showcases, he's been to many workouts, he plays on a good travel team, and he still feels like a needle in a haystack. So what I wanted to do is go over what happens to the people that wait and debate and stay on the fence when it comes to this college recruiting process. So I have a quote that I wrote that I will read, and then we will get to his email. The quote says, "The number one mistake parents and prospects make in the college recruiting process is waiting. It's easy to fall into the trap of, if I'm good enough, they'll find me. While this may be true for some, it is not true for the majority. Waiting, debating, and going back and forth on how to attack the college recruiting process does you no good. Planning, taking measured steps, asking the right questions, and working with the right people are all different cards you can play, so long as you play them early in the process. These simple recommendations often go unnoticed in favor of attending the biggest showcases, playing for a top-notch travel team, or getting hung up on advice people give you just because you'll listen to what they have to say. Waiting and debating leads to indecisive, unmeasured actions and a sense of comfort and entitlement that you'll soon regret as graduation day approaches. Avoiding this all too common mistake of waiting too long is so easy to avoid, yet most are either too comfortable in the process or simply undereducated on how the college recruiting process actually works. Waiting, debating fence sitters need to realize that college is not getting any cheaper, and the average senior graduates with, on average, over $30,000. Yes, over $30,000 worth of debt, some more, some a little bit less. Invest in the right people early in your high school career so you're not caught playing catch up your junior and senior years when scholarship money becomes harder and harder to find." So that's the end of the quote, and some really, really good stuff in there. And I know that some people are going to be surprised to hear that the average senior, if you graduate college, the average senior graduates, hey, congratulations, you graduated college, you've done it. Now here's $30,000 worth of debt that you got to work off paying. There are some people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are still paying student loan debt, and it's just absurd. It's unbelievable, because if you plan early and if you get around the right people early in your high school career, you have a chance to not only limit that damage that's going to happen when it comes to, hey, this is how much money you owe the government, but you can totally eliminate that by getting around the right people and asking the right questions early in the process. So waiting and debating really doesn't do you any good. You got to get involved. You got to jump feet first, head first, whatever, into the college recruiting pool and get involved, because the only person that's going to get hurt if you wait is you. So let's get to this guy's email. And I like how he puts some of this stuff, and he's asking some good questions, and there's a lot of parents and there's a lot of prospects that'll benefit from hearing what he has to say. Keep in mind, he's a young guy, so he's asking the right questions. He says, "Hey, Jake, your honest assessment of recruiting is refreshing. I'm glad to hear this from someone with," he says, "real knowledge on the subject." Absolutely. This is what I do. I love it. He says, "Too many hopefuls, especially parents, think as long as I can enter this showcase or play in this travel tournament, I'll get noticed." And exactly. That's what people will tell you. And showcases do have their role to play. They can get you in front of a good amount of coaches, but in my opinion, about 95% of those, they're just money grabs. They're trying to get you to hand over your $200, your $300, sometimes $500, $600, $700, $800, sometimes even more, and pay for your travel, and pay for your food, and get mom or dad to go out there, and take the time to do it. And the list goes on and on. So just because you go to these showcases does not mean that you're going to get noticed. He says, "Paying to play only gets you so far, and you cannot buy ability. My question is centered on when to start the college recruiting process." Well, like I just said, start as soon as you step on campus as a freshman in high school. Even if you have no inclination on whether or not you're going to make the varsity squad or the junior varsity squad or the freshman team, you got to get started. Once you get started, then it becomes easier, because if you get started your freshman year, let's just say, even if you're just doing a little bit, even if you're just getting around people that do this for a living, or people like Luce Prospect Group that, have helped tons and tons of kids and raised millions of dollars in order to help them in the college recruiting process. Even if you start even watching these videos as a freshman, this is going to put you so far ahead of the game that it's going to be worth it. So 10, 15, some of these videos are 1 or 2 minutes long. So there may be some nuggets that you can pick up. And if you do that consistently over a long period of time, let's say you start your freshman year, and let's say that you're not going out calling a bunch of college coaches, but you're simply educating yourself on the college recruiting process, what that's going to do is that's going to make you smarter. That's going to make you more apt to deal with the challenges and the ups and downs and ebbs and flows that go along with this college recruiting process. So if you're a freshman or a sophomore and you haven't dove into really figuring out how the process works, either find somebody that's going to do it for you, or you better get going, because you risk getting into a situation where I have no idea what I'm going to do, and that is not a good feeling. Trust me, I know this from experience. I was 5'10", 170 pounds, soaking wet as a junior and senior in high school, and I tell you what, I was in the weight room all the time. I was trying to eat healthy, but my body just hadn't got to that point yet where it was going to take that big jump. Some guys mature a little bit earlier, but especially for the guys like myself that are not going to be highly recruited, that they're not highly touted coming out of high school, man, if you're not getting yourself educated on this recruiting process, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And then not only that, it's kind of a double whammy, because if you don't get a scholarship, okay, you can go walk on somewhere, or if you get a minimal scholarship, you can do that. That's fine. But think about what's waiting for you at the end. Think about what's waiting for you in 3, 4, 5 years whenever you do graduate. That big, fat stack of bills, college debt, college loan, that is not something that you want to deal with. And as a kid, what happens when you get to that point where you graduate? Did you know that 85% of seniors plan to move back home after graduation? That is absurd. That is unbelievable. But the question is, why do they plan on moving back? Not necessarily because they want to, but because they need to save money. Saving money in no debt and saving money in $30,000 worth of school debt are two different things, because the money that you save if you're in no debt, you can apply that to whatever you want. But as soon as you stop going to school, what happens is you start getting those bills in the mail, and either you can pay them or you can't. And so it feels like every time that you get that paycheck from your job, you got the nice fancy job, you graduated with honors, and nobody in the world cares. They just don't. They don't care that you're $30,000 in debt because you decided to go to school. There's a lot of people out there that'll tell you that you don't need to go to college, and that's fine. College is definitely not for everybody. But if you're looking to play baseball, football, or basketball, or volleyball, or soccer, or golf, or cross country, track, all these different opportunities that you have to earn a scholarship, that adds up, and it adds up really, really quickly. So these mistakes of sitting there and waiting and trying to figure out, well, we don't know, that's one I hear a lot is, we'll give them a great presentation, we'll take them through the recruiting process, and we'll say, hey, this is how it's going to work. And a lot of parents will come back and say, well, Jake, it all sounds great, but I think we're going to wait. And I just want to, it's just face plant, because more times than not, what happens is a year later or 2 years later, even we've had people that have done this, they'll come back and they'll say, Jake, we're ready to get started. Like, we're ready to invest. And I say, I appreciate the offer, but there's not much I can do in 4 or 5 months trying to get your kid a scholarship. It just not really something that I like to do, because for me personally, I knew that I needed to develop, and that's why I went junior college. And so there's a lot of kids out there that need to develop, but sitting there and waiting and hoping and wishing and not attacking this process head on does you really no good. It just doesn't do you any good. So let's finish up what he has to say in this email. He says, okay, so I've been in countless showcases, tournaments, and workouts, and I feel like a needle in a haystack. How do you separate yourself from other players when there are so many other players at these events? Well, you separate yourself by being relentless in your pursuit of greatness. Consistent discipline, every day, grinding, waking up, getting out of bed, going to school, doing what you need to do in the classroom, respecting your teachers, respecting your friends, respecting your teammates, respecting females, males, everybody that you come in contact with, because what happens is you start to develop a standard for yourself. When your standards are higher than that of your peers, you will progress much, much faster than them. If you're progressing faster than your peers, what happens is you, as a result, will get more opportunities, and sometimes you can even get scholarship opportunities just because of the way you carry yourself. Because if you think that coaches go to these showcases or these workouts and don't watch what you're doing in between drills, or watch whether or not you're hustling, or watch whether or not you hang your head after a bad round, in BP, or you boot a ball, and you can just see on guys' body language whether or not they have what it takes. And a lot of coaches, based on body language, and I've talked to plenty of them, they tell me, Jake, I saw this guy one time, and that's all I needed to see. Cross him off the list, and it's game over, and there goes that potential scholarship. So remember, the odds are in your favor. All you need is one coach, one school, one program, one opportunity for you to make your dream become a reality. But if you sit there and you wait and you don't do anything, chances are that opportunity is never going to come. So let's finish to what he has to say here. He says, once again, thank you for doing these videos and sharing your advice. I've subscribed to the Luce Prospect Group YouTube. That's good. And also followed y'all's Facebook page. That's even better. Thanks again. And it says Bob, but that's not his name. So lots of great points in this. How do you stand out? What do you need to do to get started? Who are the right people that you need to get around? These are all questions as a family I would recommend sitting down and asking and discussing, because if you think that your summer coach is going to do it for you, assuming never leads to good things. If you assume that your summer coach is going to do it, there's a chance that he might not do it. Now, again, I've said this many times before. Different organizations are different. Different coaches are different. There will be some that'll help you, and there will be some that won't. But a majority, just remember, a majority will tell you, hey, that's part of the package. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for us to get you to the next level. But what they don't realize is the time that it takes to actually collect a kid's information, get his stuff out there, and get it out there on a consistent basis. It's not something where you just say, hey, we're just going to send out a video and all right, let's do it. That's not really how it works. Coaches usually will want to see more than one video. And once they see that video, a lot of times they want to see that kid or that prospect in person. We've had coaches that have flown from out of state to come watch our kids play after seeing a great video, because that video was what gets them intrigued. And if they're smart, what they realize is, hey, not only does this kid look good on video, but I need to go check him out for myself because he could be a difference maker in my program. Coaches that don't take those trips, coaches that simply recruit from wherever they are in their own state, are not the ones that are going to be there very long, because if you don't adapt and if you don't get out there and you don't try things differently and you go after the same kids every year in the same batch, you're going to keep getting the same results. So if you're winning national championships and you're winning your regional and you're winning your conference and you're winning all this stuff, do the same thing. Recruit the same way, because obviously you don't need to change anything. But if you're not, and if you're a 500 ball club and your team ERA was last in the conference, or your team batting average was 7 out of 8 in the conference, then you need to seriously consider doing something a little bit different. So with that said, the only way to get these coaches to notice you is if you're around people that will help you get noticed by those coaches. Coaches are not going to come knocking on your door saying, please, 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 let me give you a scholarship. That's just not how it works. My recommendation, more than anything, get started. Get started. Even if it's not through somebody like Luce Prospect Group, have a sit down with your summer coach or have a sit down with your high school coach. These guys, remember, these guys are paid to help you. That is what their job is they're supposed to help you. So use them. Use these resources. If you play for a great summer team, awesome. That's great. Most of these guys and most of these coaches are former players. They've been through this process. So don't be afraid to ask the question. Don't be afraid to get that information early, because if you don't, you're only hurting yourself. With that said, got to tell you, I really appreciate if you've made it this far in this video. 15 minutes into this video and you just got 15 minutes worth of great college recruiting advice. And if you want more, all you got to do, like this player did, is you could go on our Facebook page and like our Facebook page. You can go subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we have tons and tons of great stuff that is coming out here in the next several months. If you're on Twitter, make sure you go follow us on Twitter. And then we also have an Instagram that we started up a couple months ago, so we're trying to get that going as well. We try to do some great stuff, not only for our kids, but for people that are not with us that just want to get more correct information on the college recruiting process. With that said, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video coaching newsletter, and we'll talk to you guys soon.